Before we get started, I want you guys to loosen up a little bit. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Although this is very serious material because it can affect your life, I want it to be somewhat lighthearted, but I want you to hear everything that I'm going to say to you today. Because this is not my indictment of you. It's your indictment of yourself. You have to be the person who sits back in your private space and tells yourself, hey, I'm flawed. I've got some issues. I do have some concerns. Stuff has happened to me when I was just a young person that I never got over because I never had anybody to talk to. One of the greatest misrepresentations of mankind is to underutilize the power of the human mind. To learn these techniques and capture, and I say capture, the full expression of thought progression that can stabilize, these are key words, that can stabilize sound decision making is a huge leg up for all of us. Getting to know yourself, getting to be able to identify what your problems are, and being able to separate a problem for a stuck point is critical. And I'll go over that as we move along. So understand me clearly. Your life is about you. I can't change your life for you. I can't change your mind. Perhaps I can influence how you think and why you think. But it's up to you to make that ultimate decision to change something about your character that needs to be changed. And perhaps it's been going on 30, 40, 50 years. I say that based on my experience in Vietnam. That broke me down, guys. And that was my barometer to the rest of my life. That was the most powerful event in my life that challenged me beyond words. But you have to pick out that traumatic time in your life. And you have to look back at that time because obviously you're still here. And then ask yourself, what did I do that brought me through that? Well, some of you might have just pushed it into your subconscious. But guess what? Your subconscious is always there. And what comes behind your subconscious is its cousin. And that's a trigger. Something's going to trigger that traumatic experience and put you into a serious state of depression. Something that you've tried to avoid perhaps all of your life, or most of your life, but it's never, ever been rectified. When I wrote this book, Simply Common Sense, it was after I went to the VA. 15 years ago, they denied me my benefits as a veteran, simply based on how I looked, the way I dressed, how I was able to articulate. I didn't come in on a walker or a wheelchair. I didn't have an oxygen tank on the back of my back. They looked at me and said, oh, you don't qualify. There's nothing wrong with you. Well, unless you can look into my mind and see the emotional scarring, what qualifies you to make that assessment of me? Needless to say, I didn't pursue it. I was working. I was making good money. I was living my life. But I still had those triggers. I still had those memories of the guys that I served with in Vietnam. It was very, very traumatic just to get off that bus. And the only words that we heard was MF. MF this, MF that. Oh, you from Chicago? You must be a gangster. Oh, you from Nebraska? Oh, all you do is milk cows. They had something for everybody. But what they were doing, they were pulling you out of your civility because now you were owned by the government. I still had those traumatic experiences that I was able to subdue because I had to. We didn't have anybody to talk to. There was no debriefing. And that still happens today. Iraq, Afghanistan, these men and women are actually committing suicide because they're not getting the help that they deserve. That was the instrument for me, ladies and gentlemen, Vietnam. I have not witnessed anything as serious in scope as that. Nothing is beyond the scope of you dealing with your stuck point. But you have to have the will, you have to have the desire to want to do it. Now I'm here to impart some information. It's up to you to accept it. We all know what we should do, but we don't do it. And guess what? We elect not to do it. So you have to indict yourself and ask yourself, why? Why can I sit down and really tell myself, hey, I'm flawed, I'm messed up, I need to deal with these issues, but how can I go about doing it? This could be your beginning. But you have to listen to what I'm saying to you. Am I the guru for all of this? Absolutely not. I just write from my own experiences. But I write that everybody can relate to it. I'm really trying to create a following. Thinkers. We don't think. Thinking is linear. We think on straight lines. You know, our thoughts are all over the place. We multitask all the time. But how often have you actually sat down and thought about your day and the problems that you encountered that were, by definition, just stuck points? But you've been stuck for so long because you deal with the same issues all the time, you don't know how to navigate through it. And that's what this is going to be about today. I'm going to teach you how to navigate through your thoughts. All right? My words, your reality, you make the decision. Everybody with me?
Yes.
Last year, around this time, I gave the first seminar on Simply Common Sense, right here in this room. And I did a historical perspective. And we all know this man, right? Martin Luther King Jr., he talked about emancipation, he talked about freedom, he talked about this non-violent way of dealing with our oppressors. Oppression doesn't necessarily have to be racial. We have our own people that oppress us. We have people in our family that oppress us. We have people who are toxic that are oppressors. But how do we deal with it? What do we do? Do we just walk away? Most of the time, if you're like me, I don't have time for toxic people. I really don't. I don't have that kind of time. You know, if I'm telling you by way of your question that you're doing something wrong, and you tell me, well, no, I'm not. Well, what you asked me for in the first place? See, that's a stuck point. If people can't tell you something after you ask them, then they need to be by themselves. Hey, you work it out by yourself. This is your issue. This is your problem. Make it what you will, but I don't have the time. But if you tell me you have a problem, I said, well, let's sit down and talk about it. Then you tell me what's going on. I can devise a way to make you see yourself a little different. But you have to have an open mind. You have to have the will to want to change. Malcolm X, same kind of vision, but his methodology was different. His thing was violence, by any means necessary. But guess what? I can relate to that. Because if you get up in my face too many times, saying too many wrong things, I'm going to respond. And depending on my temperament, depending on those stresses that are working, depending on my ability to pull myself away from that combat zone, you might be okay. But you might catch me on a bad day. And I may retaliate. You understand? So this applies to us all. We all have that measure that we have to realize that, hey, I can't take it no more. There's something else that I need to do. And before I can do anything, I got to make me a better person. Martin Luther King, his freedom speech, very charismatic man. Nonviolence, a visionary. Malcolm X, same character traits. But his thing, coming off the streets as a pimp and a drug user, that's what he knew. It's very important for everybody to understand their history because there are historical factors that we all can relate to. They bought and sold slaves, But isn't that still going on today to some extent?
Yes.
Isn't it?
Very
So
much.
the methods of our oppressors have changed, but the reality of it has not changed. We don't have the chains of slavery, but we shackled here. They don't have to kill us because what? We're killing ourselves. But there are generations that are coming behind us, guys, that are being affected. So what's left of a generation of people who now wind up dead or in jail for the rest of their lives? Shackles. Are you brainwashed? Are you that wannabe? Are you that person who always wants to put themselves ahead of anybody else and you ain't done nothing? Is it time to get off your do nothing and do something? I say it is. Because I can't stop doing what I enjoy doing. I talk about passion a lot. And my passion has become teaching. But guess what, guys? I've taught in some capacity all of my life. So your life has a pattern. Things that you did early on in life, some of us wind up doing it later on in life, like I did. I've taught in every capacity. I've taught at university. I've taught at the police academy. Emmett Till, before. Young man, was killed when he was 15 years old. Full of hopes, maybe some vision, but he was the son of a mother who loved him, who never had a chance to flourish. History, guys. They brutally beat this man, this young boy, threw him over the Tallahatchie Bridge for, they say, whistling at a white woman. They beat him unmercifully in Mississippi. This is how he wound up. His mother chose to have an open casket because she wanted the world to see the hatred that was being exemplified. Trayvon Martin, same kind of story. We all know the story. But what do you think's behind it? Is it just hatred, or is it hatred of a particular race? It's debatable, and I'm not here to serve that purpose. But it's debatable. It's questionable. But why is it that our people are being victimized so often by our own and by police around the country? People don't value life anymore, especially ours. But we don't have to buy into it. We can start doing some things. You have to find what your passion is. You have to pursue it each and every day. The Asians and the Japanese, from birth, they're learned a skill, and they practice that all their lives. That's why they're so proficient at the arts. It takes a discipline. It takes a will. You can't change the mindsets of other people. All the thing you can do is change the mindset of you. You are the person that has to indict yourself. You have to become that person who cares about your future, your deliverance, what you want to do for the rest of your life. What is it? Can you figure it out? We'll see. This course is like a graduate course. Let's call it 101. And as I get more into this book, every time I write something, guys, I read it over and over again, and I get different answers, or questions that I ask myself. And I came to realize that what I'm going to show you today is not rational thinking. It's irrational thinking. And I say that because if you're doing something irrational, it's not common. Trying not to multitask with everything that you do is not common. It's irrational. Where do you find your peace? Can you meditate? Would you meditate? Can you buy into it? I've gotten into spiritual wellness. My brother-in-law here talked to me a lot about the power of manifestation. And there's a lot to be said about that. Because you are who you think you are. Do I have to say that again? No. If you see yourself as a cripple, an emotional cripple, guess what? That's what you're going to be. If you associate yourself with drug addicts and alcoholics, that's what you're going to become. You can't hang around with people who are poor and expect to become a millionaire. It ain't going to happen. Determine where you are right now. And now we're getting into this, guys. Where are you right now? Did you leave your ego at the door? Are you sitting here thinking about what you got to do when you get home? Are you sitting here thinking that, hey, he's wasting my time because I don't want to hear any of this. I'm too old to change. Are you really? Are you really too old to change? Do you want to change? What is it about yourself that you could change if you tried hard enough? Perhaps I can give you the tools to do that. But you have to receive the tools. Are you dealing with difficult emotions? And I'm talking about all that muck with an M. All that muck that's in your life. We all have it. We all go through stuff. And I've had conversations with a lot of you. And I know you got muck in your life. I know it. But when you leave here, are you going to leave my thoughts, my words here with you? Or are you going to take some of this back when you get home and sit down and discuss it? This book has done very well. It's become the aha moment for a lot of people. People actually sit at their dinner tables and talk about it. And the prevailing question is, well, Ron, what do you think about me? I can't tell you that. I'll get in trouble. I'll get cussed out. You have to tell yourself what your problem is or what your stuck point is. Don't talk to me today and say, well, this, that, and the other. Well, what do you think? What do you think? That's what's important. Are you trying to identify your stressors? What are your stressors? What are those things about your character that keeps coming up when certain things happen? What are those things in your life? Is it your children? Do they stress you out? I know they do. They stress you out. Do other people stress you out? Do people in your family stress you out? Do your siblings stress you out? Do people who you've never met stress you out? Do those customer service people stress you out? What can you really do about it? Only you can do is recognize the toxic behavior that so many people can demonstrate. And it's been my experience traveling around the country doing these seminars that so many people are lost because they just don't know what to do. They don't know how to handle these stuck points. And I'm here today to try to help you do that. Are you connecting with your soul's wisdom? Now I'm getting into the metaphysical because you can't see your soul, but we've heard about it, right? If you go to church, you hear about the soul all the time. What is the soul? A lot of people come up with different answers. But the soul is that thing that you can't see. The soul is that thing that you know you shouldn't do, but you do it anyway. And to hell with the repercussion if you make the mistake of doing something you know you shouldn't do. But now you have to handle it. And now that becomes another stuck point. And it may become a problem because the problem is you have no control over it because now you're in jail. All right? So jail is not the imprisonment where you are behind bars. Jail can be the prisoner within your own mind. A lot of us are prisoners within our own minds because we can't step forward and do something different that's meaningful and worthwhile. Are you in need of hope and deliverance? Hey, I am. Unequivocally, I'm in need of hope and deliverance because I'm dealing with muck all the time from my past. All the time. And I have to get to myself, get by myself to realize that the only person that can help me get out of that situation is me. That's it. Bar none. I have to do it myself. So, where do you find peace? What is your purpose today? I'm asking you these hard questions. Okay? And I'm going to hit home with some of them. I didn't have enough room to put on this slide. But here's some hard questions for you. The pros, I'm interested in the topic. How many are really interested in the topic? Has anything I said thus far doesn't make any sense? Does it? Does it make sense?
It makes sense.
It makes sense. Can you relate to anything I've said thus far?
Yeah.
Okay? Can you admit that you got a lot of muck in your life? That you're dealing with a lot of frustration? That you're dealing with people who don't appreciate what you do and how you do it? No matter what you do, they still don't appreciate it. Even if they tell you, okay, you need to do this, Ron, and I do it, they still won't be satisfied.
Right.
So does that become my problem? No, that's your stuck point.
Right.
Because you have to find out what it is that you can't comply to anything, no matter what the circumstances are. You just won't comply. Can I accept my own truth? Everybody say that.
Can I accept my own truth?
Can you?
Yes.
Can you accept your own truth? Can you admit that you're envious? Are you sitting there shooting daggers at me because I'm standing here doing something that you like to do, but you haven't had the temerity to do it?
Nope.
Maybe not. Some people are. Some people do. People, when they're hurt, they want to hurt other people.
Sure.
That's what I'm getting at. How dare you, Ron, do something different from everybody else? How dare you tell me that? But guess what? I'm doing a Michael Jackson on you. That's that moonwalk. I'm getting out of your way. You shouldn't have time for people like that.
That's right.
I met people like Walter, Leslie, Coach Volius and his wife, Ronnie. I've met good people. Wendell came from Wisconsin. Ronnie came from Wisconsin. I've met good people. But you have to distinguish between what's good and what's bad and what's indifferent. And listen, if it ain't good, if it doesn't, if you don't feel it, if that person kind of turns you off, pay attention to the red flags. Because those things are what we don't pay attention to. And that's called intuition. And we'll talk about that a little bit. The cons. I was forced to attend. Okay. Are you glad you came?
Yes.
So far?
Yes.
Right.
Okay. You got to open your mind to what's being said here. How old are you, young man?
47.
27?
47.
47. Okay. All right.
27.
Well, you look good. But you can't make this an age thing. You can't make it a gender thing. It can't be a racial thing. This applies to everybody. If you can't think progressively through your stuck points, you're going to remain where you are today with nothing ever being resolved. It's not going to happen. You got to buy into it. Nothing about change interests me. If nothing interests you, if you leave here today and you didn't learn anything, don't bother to come back. Because I've lost you already. But you have to ask yourself, why didn't you get something out of it? It's a stuck point. You have to identify what the stuck point is. There's a source for every stuck point. The end result of the stuck point is the alternative. But you have to find out what the alternative is. And there's an in-between between the source and the alternative. And we'll go through that a little later. I'm already perfect. Who's perfect? If you are, get out. I don't want to see you anymore. If you can admit that you're not perfect, if you can admit there are things that you can learn, you owe it to yourself to do it. I surround myself, I try, with people who know a little bit more than I do, and perhaps even a lot more. Ron Garner is an architect. He has a very compelling story, but quickly, he wanted to be an architect when he was 8 years old. And now he's one of 1,400 in the country, Ron, of black architects.
Right.
Yeah. Went to the University of Illinois. When did you go to Illinois? In 1950?
42.
Went to the University of Illinois. And he was told time and time again by instructors, hey, you're not going to make it through this program. It's a 5-year program, and he made it out in 4 years with honors. Give him a round of applause. But that's a mindset. He wasn't going to accept you can't. He kept saying, I will, and you won't get in my way.
Amen.
You just watch me walk down the aisle. That's an attitude. It's a mindset. The money was right. How many paid the $20? If it was 50, would you come?
Yes.
Yes.
If it was 100, would you come?
Yes.
But some people are squabbling about $20. Has anybody ever put a presentation together? Do you know the time and the money that goes into doing something? If you want to do it right. And you mean to tell me you can't cough up $20 and you'll leave here and buy KFC, the cakes that they sell? You'll blow $20 getting some gas. $20, guys. I bet you some people that I invited didn't want to come because they wanted something for nothing. But I tell you, if you don't pay for something, how do you appreciate it? You buy a $60,000 car that depreciates when you drive it off the lot. People will mortgage their lives to get a car. And you can't invest $20 into your own future? What kind of common sense is that? And I'm not saying it because I'm the presenter today. I mean, I see it all the time. You sell your books. How many people have written a book? The time and money and effort that goes into a book, and Walter will attest to this, takes up a lot of time. But people want handouts. Well, Ron, can you give me the hookup? Oh, hook up to what? You know, the book is $25. You either want it or you don't. Oh, I can get it. Okay, fine. You go to the next person. I met a lady. At the time, she was about 80 years old. And Leslie, I met her at your mom's salon. And your mom was telling her about me and my book. And I met her, and she says, well, I understand you wrote a book. And I said, yeah. She said, can you tell me about it? I said, yeah, I told you about it. She said, well, how much is it? I said, $25. She said, oh, that's too much. I said, really? Did you write it? Was it your experience? But this lady drives a Corvette. And she couldn't give me $25 for my book without a hookup. Hookup. Hate the word. I am closed-minded. You can't be closed-minded. Am I reaching you yet, young man? Okay. Are you excited yet? No. Are you buying into what I'm saying? A little bit.
You're saying that.
Okay.
So I probably said that wrong. I think what you're saying is very accurate. I'm really here to support my mom.
Okay.
But I'm not forcing her. I'm 47 years old. I'm not forcing you to do anything.
Okay.
But my mom wanted to come, and she wanted somebody to come with her. I said, sure, Mom, I'll go with you.
Okay. All right. That's commendable. All right. I shy away from positive matters. Do you? Your thought cycle. It's not what you do, but what you elect to do. It's not what you do, but why you elect to do it. Say that, please.
It's not what you do, but why you elect to do it.
Negativity, when magnified, are forgeries of your happiness. Say it.
Negativity, when magnified, are forgeries of your happiness.
Do you understand what that means?
Yes.
Anything that's negative in your life, anything that goes beyond the scope of what's positive, when it's magnified, your forgery of happiness is to do something in its place. There were times when I was very depressed when I bought cars. That was my release. But when I started getting all these notes, that was my reality. But we deal with our depression differently. And you have to figure out what that is. And when you figure it out, it's your stuck point. Okay? Don't seek to become only a man of success, but a man of value. We numb ourselves to reach momentary peace. You cannot change what you don't acknowledge. Say that, please. You cannot change what you don't acknowledge. If you don't admit that you're flawed, if you don't admit that you have inconsistency, if you don't admit that you are just messed up, if you can't do that, you're not going to move very far. If I want to get on the other side of the room, I'm going to have to walk. I can stand here forever and say, wow, I wish I could get over there. Well, use your leg and walk over there. That's the reality of what is real, is the actual action to do something different. Our prevailing truth, this has become the lifestyle of so many people. And that picture speaks for itself, does it not? Chosen lifestyles. From 1997 to 2007, this young lady on meth went from that on the left to that on the right. And see, what happens, what we see on the outside is the end result of what's happening on the inside. And we're going to talk about cellular memory. We're going to talk about the trillions of cells in our bodies and how they're actively moving to keep us healthy. That's what it's all about. Chosen lifestyles. Learned behaviors. Hatred is a learned behavior. Prejudice is a learned behavior. Love, even though it's a verb, it's a learned behavior. Because if you never had it, you can't give it back. Respect. A lot of people want it, but they don't want to give it. How crazy is that? Guilt, fear, shame. But hatred can be reversed. Prejudice can evolve into understanding. Love can happen when it's understood. Respect is modeled when seen. Guilt has its source. Shame increases when it's faced. You have to acknowledge those things that depress you the most. So, how do I combat this phenomenon? What can I do to prevent an attitude of destruction? Evolve by learning. Find out what works. Ask yourself serious questions. Remove the fear from your own truth. When you're out of balance, your mind is in turmoil. Mind, body, spirit has to be a part of who you are as an individual. Embracing the Beauty of Balance is really an excellent book. He's working on the workbook now. It's really great. If you're interested in that book, you can see Jimmy once it's all over, or he can pass out some information, and you can order it on Amazon.com. We talked about cells, and this is a picture of cells. There are trillions of cells in the human body, and just about as many neurons. The neurons in the body can light up cities. That's how magnificent the human body is. And unless you go in to study what the body's all about and how it operates, it's a fantastic, magnificent mechanism. It only falters when we don't take care of it. Just as it goes with your mind, if you don't take care of your mind, if you're not reintroducing new things to your mind, you're not going to change anything about yourself. It is said that the average person uses 10% of their thinking capacity. Edison was a little bit above that because he was a visionary. Martin Luther King, a visionary. Barack Obama, a visionary. Clinton, a visionary. All these people could see ahead. Maya Angelou, fantastic woman, a visionary. They stepped outside of the box, if you will, and thought differently. They dared to think differently. So that cellular structure is something, because it is who we are. Once it becomes breached by drugs or alcohol or any other kind of misuse by way of your eating, you're destroying cells. And if cells can't grow and replenish, it's not long before you become a thing of the past. They say at 20% of our thinking capacity, we can control our own metabolism. You can change the features of your body. You can change the color of your hair at 20% of your capacity. Just think how it would be at 100%. You'd be so far above everybody else that you would probably become extinct yourself because you just couldn't handle the pressure. Nobody was there to really listen to what you're saying. And that's how fantastic the human mind is. And if you squander that, you're doing yourself an injustice. You got to find out what works. Your protection of cellular bodies, the thought of not being able to think. That last sentence, the thought of not being able to think. What kind of resonates with that sentence? How about the word thought? The thought of not being able to think. If you couldn't think, the thought wouldn't even exist, right? Do we take it for granted that we think?
Yeah.
But how are you thinking? What are you thinking about? Do you think about change, or are you just too comfortable because everything seems to be working for you, but it ain't working for me? It's working for you, but it's not working for your wife or your husband. It's not working for your girlfriend or your boyfriend. It's not working for your employer. It ain't working. So you have to find that balance to bring it all together. Mind, body, spirit. It all plays a part in who you are and what you will become. This could be your moment in time. Today, right here, right now, could be the revelation that you have been looking for a long time. But you've got to treat it like it's a discipline. It has to become a part of your academic vernacular, if you will, where you introduce your mind to these new thoughts and ideas of how you can go about your life a little bit easier. God knows that we're in the book of Revelations. Whatever your persuasion is religiously, I'm not going to debate that. But I can identify with my God. And I know by reading the book of Revelations that we're in it, guys. We are in it. Deeply. And this can become overwhelming. This can become all-consuming. But it becomes you to gravitate to it, extract from that what you can do to keep yourself moving and to keep yourself in a positive way of thinking, because you can become so overwhelmed that you just sit in that living room, continue to eat, continue to become depressed, sleep deprived, and you're waiting to die. Is that common sense for you? If it is, I bow to you because you're a better person than me. Is this your moment in time? We'll see. I've created relationships. Leslie has become my surrogate daughter, if you will. Raise your hand, Leslie. I met her at a spa meeting, and I just kind of, if you don't mind me saying this, Leslie, I kind of took her under my wing because I saw so much promise. Isn't she poised? Raise your hand. Stand up, honey. And now we have that bond, you know? And it means a lot to me, and I hope it means a lot to her. Sherry and Coach V, raise your hands. They come to everything that I do. They buy my books, come to these workshops. Loyal friends who don't ask for anything in return. But anything they do, I'm going to support. See, the biggest problem we have as a people, and listen to me when I say this, the biggest problem we have as a people is the support that we don't provide. I invited 60 people. And a lot of them didn't even say, hey, I can't make it, Ron. But you see them all over Facebook posting this and that and inviting you to something, but they can't come to something like this. Now, I'm not standing here complaining, but I'm just saying, I'm talking about the mindset of people. You know? We don't stick together. Whatever you guys are doing that brings about promise, that means something, that somebody can carry something away. If you're doing that, I want to know because I'm going to support it. If you've written a book, I'm going to buy it. If I write a book, some people say, hey, what about the hookup? Where's the discount? See, those are the people that you don't want around you. But those are the people that your intuition says, hey, this person ain't right. This person is fake. This person ain't real. They can't relate to where I am because I'm about truth. I'm about doing the right thing at the right time with the right people. That's what life has to be about. But what you're going to find is that that circle of people that you engage in becomes narrower and narrower the more you go through life progressing. The friends you thought you have will drop off by the wayside. And those are the haters. Those are the people that stab you in the back. Those are the people that have nothing good to say about you. But that's on them. And guess what? Stuck points. They need to identify what the stuck points are. But those people don't have the time because they think they're perfect already. How many perfect people do you know? Or who profess to be perfect?
Yeah.
I know a lot of them.
Right.
But they're fake. If you stick your finger into a light socket, what happens is that the electricity running through that socket transfers into your own body that's full of neutrons yourself. You following this pattern? And that's what kills you, because the two are meeting. If you connect with yourself, if you connect with other people, the energy is overwhelming. And that's why I wrote this book, guys. Simply Common Sense. Achieving rational solutions to real-world problems in an unrational world. Is the world unrational? I mean, we're just caught in the middle of everything. They want to do anything they can to keep us back. Well, at least the middle class. Is that debatable? Yeah. But for me, it's very real. But had I not prepared myself to do other things, you know, I might be one of those persons sitting down on the couch, eating myself to death, and wondering why I'm gaining weight. And the reality of that should be, you're eating too darn much. A very simple approach to a very complex question or problem, because a lot of people are overweight. A lot of people are unhappy. Maybe some of you in here today are dealing with stuff that you don't know how to get yourself out of. But there's a way. You just have to keep it moving. You have to keep thinking of ways to do it. And go through this process. I've given you all the information. If you don't want it, share it with somebody else. Share it with your son, your daughter, your nephews, your sisters, your brothers. Because I guarantee you, give them that list of stuck points. And if they're honest with themselves, if their truth is real, they'll be checking off stuff. Oh yeah, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. Sandy, she ran off the list. This is another book that I've done, The Ordinary Truth of an Unexpected Reality. Common sense ain't that common. And here's some of the subjects I talked about. Time relativity. Minimizing opportunity or maximizing opportunity. Creating mindsets. The science of placating personalities. Sensory deprivation. Implementing courage. All ordinary truths, but unexpected realities. You guys get that? The ordinary truth, whatever your ordinary truth is, what's the unexpected reality of that ordinary truth, Chris? That's what you have to try to figure out. An open mind. Everything starts with an open mind. You have to be open to new, positive things. And I'm trying not to say anything that nobody here can relate to. It's the positivity of life that's going to carry you through life. But you have to have the will and the desire to seek it out until it becomes yours and you learn to fix it. Here's again, problems, indictments, stuck points, alternatives. Did anybody identify stuck points that you want to share?
Everybody's perfect.
Everybody perfect? Did you identify some stuck points?
Yes.
So they're too embarrassing to share, right? That's what I'm talking about, and that's good. I'm glad you're saying that. Because a stuck point goes beyond just being an angry person. A stuck point goes beyond just being shameful or guilty. The real stuff about stuck points is envy and jealousy and hatred, procrastination. Those are the things that you need to focus on. Those are the realities of life. Those hard questions. Why do I keep getting in trouble? Why do I keep using drugs? Why do I keep drinking? Why do I keep cussing out my father and my mother? Why do I mistreat everybody? Those are serious transgressions. And you better fix them. Progressive thinking. Registration of vote. We haven't been able to vote. It hasn't been long. 1963, I think, when they were fighting for the right to vote in the South. And what are they trying to do in Congress and the Senate with our voting rights?
Yeah.
They're still trying to take it away from them. They don't want us to be able to do anything. Look at the demographics of the city of Chicago, where the loop is moving west. Is that right, Ron? And how far south? Maybe 35th Street?
Even further than
Yeah.
35th.
The lake is being taken over.
Yeah, the lake has been taken over all the way to the old steel mill.
Yeah.
We've already invested $4 billion. Not invested, but it's been approved.
Yeah.
$4 billion.
Okay. So life is changing, guys. Our city is changing. The demographic of who we are and where we're placed is changing. Can we do anything about it? No. Is it a mindset? Yes. But what's your mindset? What's yours? What can you do to combat some of that you have no control over? Leave that alone that you can't control and find your own mix. Make your own brownies. Put your own ingredients in it and make it delectable. It has to appeal to your palate, not mine. The good old Tea Party and their thoughts about us and what they want us to do and how they want us to do it, ain't a lot of hope if it was left up to the Tea Party. Again, can that be debated? Yes, but we're not here for that. It's just the reality of two mindsets that are distinctly different. Okay? That's the reality of a lot of people. So what is the stuck point? Thoughts that are not 100% accurate. Say that, please.
Thoughts that are not 100% accurate.
That's what a stuck point is. If it's not 100% and it's 50%, you need to work on reducing it to maybe 40 or 30 and maybe eliminate it altogether. But it's a process. Don't take the most severe stuck point and try to resolve it because it's not going to happen. Take the least of the three and work towards resolving that. And then you go to the next one and then to the next one. But it's continuation of writing a statement that identifies what that stuck point does to you and how it affects other people. And where is it placing you in your own mind? Are you shackled by the use of your own brain? Is your mind that irrespective of who you are and what you want to be? If you're answering those questions to the positive, you need to address it. Stuck points must be longer than one word. Angry and shame and envy and jealousy and prejudice and stuck points are formatted with an if and then structure. if I let others get too close to me, then I will get hurt. So does that mean that you stay away from everybody because you don't want to get hurt? You have to give opportunity to people to let them tell you and show you who they are, because it won't take long. I know in an instant, pretty much, if I'm going to like someone. You know how I know? For me, it's how they shake their hand, how they shake my hand, and if they can look me in my eyes. That, for me, is my intuition. That, to me, is a sign that something ain't right with this person. But I elect to give them a chance or not. That's my decision. But you get what I'm saying to you? Your intuition supersedes the thought. The intuition is that gut. The intuition is that inner knowing. And in relationships, we see this all the time. You meet a guy, ladies, and right away, something just doesn't come off right. You just know something ain't right. Something in his conversation. Something with the way he dresses. He's still living at home with his mama. You got to pick him up. Yada, 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 yada. Right? Something in your gut tells you, hey, this ain't right. It's not for me. Stuck point starts with if and then. Stuck points are often used with words like never and always. I will never be happy. How about I will be happy if I pursue it? The power of manifestation. Claiming it holistically, mind, body, spirit. That becomes your decision to make you a better person. What's your reality? Are your stuck points controlling your life? If they are, you need to address it. Thinking anecdotes. Don't judge people to fit in your little box. I'm not yours to put in your box and do your bidding. That's not who I am. That's not who you should be. Allow people to put themselves in their own box. And if you need to wrap it and ship it off, that's what you need to do. We focus on things that separate us. This gathering of you guys coming to hear this presentation, it humbles me. Okay? The biggest part of doing something like this is wondering who's going to show up. All right? Because I'm very adamant, I'm very passionate about what I say and what I do. And I want to give this to other people. But we have to listen to each other. If you got something positive to say, let's sit down and talk about it. If it's going to lead us down a positive path, let's walk that path together. See, I don't want to walk past that 2 million people have already been down, and you see dead bodies along the road. I want to make my own path. I want to do my own thing. If I fail, I have nobody else to blame but me. Okay? Every misbehavior is an unmet need. Every misbehavior is an unmet need. You guys understand that? Mm-hmm. Does it make sense to you? Real stuff. People who can't define you become fearful of you. The more you say, the more people are writing down notes. Oh yeah, that's how I can get him. Oh yeah, he don't like that. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the things that he don't like. They're taking notes. The less you say, the better off you're going to be. If you want to dream crucified, try telling somebody that you know doesn't like you and see what happens. They're not going to call and congratulate you. They're going to try to stab you in the back. They're going to try to undermine everything that you do. Thoughts, guys. You got to think. Everything is not linear. You have to expand your thought process. Your mantra, how can I serve? Ron Garner has no problem serving. He's just there for everybody. He's all over the place. He's like cat litter. But a great guy. I wouldn't trade him for the world. But he's always the same. How many of you know people that you never know how you're going to be around them or how they're going to be around you? Where you're constantly walking on eggshells. You know, I can't say this, I can't say that. Man, how discouraging and disparaging that is. Well, it's a lot of people like that. I don't know what to say and how to say it. How about this? I won't say nothing. Better yet, I'll leave you alone. Have a good day. Goodbye.
Really?
How about that?
Cut it short.
There's a hobo walking on any street USA, and he passes this lavish church, and people are getting out of their cars with their minks and three-piece suits on, and they're going into this church. And one day, this hobo, this man on the street, decides to go into the church. And he walks down the center aisle, Cavalier, and everybody's looking at him and talking about him. Where is he coming from? What's he doing here? And he sits in the front pew. And everybody's looking at him. Their mind has been distracted from the sermon. And after church, a lot of them come up to him and say, who is this guy? Why did you let him into the church? You need to tell him to get out of here and not come back. So the pastor had a talk with him and said, listen, when you go home tonight, ask God what you should wear. Because he was scrubby. Everything was disheveled. Hole in his pants. A guy on the street, but he wanted to come into church. So the pastor said, go home and ask God what you should wear. Well, the next Sunday, this hobo walked down the center aisle again, sat in the front row. Everybody's looking and talking. After the sermon, after church, the pastor walks up to him and says, did you have that talk with God about what you should wear? And the hobo said, yeah, I did. But he said, he's never been here.
Amen. Really?
Are you living in the present as a result of your past? Is your past dictating your future? If it is, you need to turn that around. You control what you do and how you do it. Today could be your beginning to a new beginning if you allow it to enter your mind and become a part of who you are and who you need to be. And that's a better person. Every death should be your own rebirth. How many people have been to your funeral? Every funeral that I've been to, well, not every, but I'd say in the last 20 years, I think about my time. And when I think about my time, I ask myself, what have I done to leave as a legacy? What have I done that people can reflect upon to make them feel good about themselves and maybe push themselves in a position where they can kind of do something that they need to do and that they put off far too long? That's important. Every death should be your own rebirth because that should reacquaint you with who you are, and where you need to be. Okay. Be a part of your own gratitude. Pat yourself on the back sometimes if it's something that you should be proud of and something you're worthy for. Be your own cheerleader. You don't need anybody else to do it for you. It's yours to claim. 89% of the gun ownership is led by the United States. Switzerland 46%, Finland 45%, Serbia 38%, and the list goes on. This is 2012. I'm sure it's more than that now with the new gun laws in Chicago. Okay? Statistics. 120 deaths between January 1st and April 1st of 2012. 120 in those few months. In 2011 was 75. We know what the murder rate is in Chicago is, right? It's just totally out of control. And I use these earlier dates because we know what's happening now. And this has been happening for a long time. Killings in Chicago, in any major metropolis, has its problems as well. And Chicago doesn't lead the country in deaths, believe it or not. But this happens to be our domain. This happens to be where we live. And we're afraid to go out of the house. Sandy teases me that I don't like to go past 159. But anytime I got to go into the city and pay $30 or $40 before I even sit down to eat, I got a problem with that. I'm on a fixed income. How about that?
You and me both.
All right. Tobacco kind of leads to death. Actual causes of preventable deaths in the United States in 1990. And I'm using these old dates because all of this has been advanced. It's enhanced. 39% is tobacco. All right? These are all statistics that kind of take us out of the game. And if you're a part of this game, you're not going to be around much longer to make a difference anywhere. Think of yourself as a thinker. Nothing can deter you unless it is allowed. Thinking formula. Repetition. Say that.
Repetition.
Habit.
Habit.
Results.
Results.
You understand that formula?
Got it.
Okay. You become what you think. Bottom line. Unsuccessful egocentric thinking. If you're egocentric, if your ego gets in the way with all that you do, you're a person who is depressed. You're a person who resents anybody and everything. You're indifferent about everything. You alienate yourself. You have apathy for nothing and nobody. You're arrogant. You're defensive. You're irritable all the time and angry. Just mad at the world. You don't want anybody else to do anything if they're doing it better than you. If I got a dime, you want 9 cents of it. That's the reality of life. So your stuck points. Anger, top right. Depression, bottom left. Doubt and fear. Those are some of your most frequently discussed stuck points. But find out why you're so angry. Find out why you're depressed. Find out why you doubt yourself so much. And then find out what you're running from. What is it that you're running from? Read this, please.
When people don't know what's going on in their life, they suspect. When they think they know, they fabricate. And when they do know, they just say,
Hello, 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 hello. How true is that?
True.
Ain't that true?
True.
That's so true. Coupling your thoughts with certain realities. Our problems are generational, believe it or not situational. A lot of the stuff in your life, a lot of that muck, comes from generations of adversity. Undisciplined households. Uneducated parents who are children themselves having children. How can you raise a child if you're still a child yourself? How can you educate a child to read if you can't? Is that an indictment on them? Yeah, it is. But perhaps they don't even know better. They say when you know better, you do better. As individuals, we must make deposits so someone else can make withdrawals. Through the negative projection and introduction of harshness, the inheritance continues. As men, we're taught not to cry, not to show emotion, and then we're asked to change. That's generational. That's handed down from one man to the other. Grandfather, father, father, son, right on down the road. We inherit a lot of stuff that are in our lives that are so negative. If women would love their men like they love their sons, we would talk more. Is that some truth to it? Yes. Think about it. But then that depends on where the man is too now. If the man is an ingrate, you just want to get away from him. But are you giving him a problem because perhaps he's not with you anymore, but he loves and respects you and he loves that child? Should you not give him the opportunity to spend some time with that child if you can move away from your own ego? If you can forgive him for not making the marriage work? Relationships are for a reason initially, but sometimes they last for a season. But you can't condemn somebody because a marriage doesn't work or a relationship doesn't work. And the reverse of that is true with men. There has to be a balance. We tend to comfort ourselves with our own anger. I'm not comfortable, so I'll just be angry for the rest of my life. And then everybody will leave me alone. You must create a flow of love for someone to stand on. Is this you? One of 3 people looking up at the sky, watching this magnificence. Where are you, at the bottom, or are you that eagle? Eagles soar. They can spot their prey 5,000 feet up in the air. They fly through storms. They fly into storms. And we talked about that at the Men of Balance meeting the other night. Jimmy, right? Right. That was so profound, you know. But we're supposed to be the intelligent species. But the animals of the world take care of their own. Only when they're hungry will they attack and feed off of their own. But as long as they have food supply, they're fine. They can cohabitate. They can get along. But as humans, with our supposed intellect, we can't do that. And why is it? Hatred, envy, jealousy, to name a few. Summation. And I thank you for your patience. Thank you for listening. Admit that there's a problem that makes or that takes into custody your behavior and your personality. Specifically identify your stuck points. Rate your stuck point from 0 to 100%. Process each stuck point based on priority, one step at a time. Understand the difference between the evidence for and the evidence against your stuck point. Determine if the stuck point is a habit versus a fact. If it's a habit, it doesn't have to be. What's the fact connected to it? And last, is your stuck point extreme or exaggerated? Don't over-exaggerate what you've identified as a stuck point. Because now you're looking for pity and sympathy. You want people to feel sorry for you. That's not the way to live. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for coming. And good.